drives past a skyscraper going up on his way to work. 42 stories of glass and steel rising above the city, cranes at the top, workers in hard hats visible on every floor. And Jake has a thought that most people have when they see a building like this going up, the company building that must be making an absolute fortune. The project is worth $200 million, and someone is collecting that money. And Jake is right. Someone is collecting that money. But here's the thing Jake does not yet know. The company building that skyscraper, after 2 years of work, after managing hundreds of workers, after coordinating dozens of subcontractors, after navigating weather delays and material shortages and client change orders, will make approximately $4 million. $4 million on a $200 million project, 2%. And if one subcontractor goes bankrupt midway through the job, if one material delivery is delayed 30 days, if one client payment arrives 60 days late instead of 30, that $4 million margin can become a $4 million loss. Before Jake drives past the building again, this is the economics of owning a construction company, and it is one of the most brutal, most capital intensive, and most financially fragile business models in the American economy. The bid system trap. Everything in construction economics starts with a problem called the bid. When a developer wants to build a skyscraper, or a highway, or a shopping center, they do not simply hire the best construction company they can find. They ask multiple companies to submit bids for the job, competitive price proposals, detailing exactly how much the company will charge to complete the project, and the lowest bid typically wins, which creates an economic incentive that is fundamentally in conflict with good business practice. To win jobs, construction companies must bid as low as possible, and to stay profitable, they must spend as little as possible on the job they won. And the gap between the lowest competitive bid and the actual cost of completing the project correctly is where most construction company failures begin. The company that consistently wins jobs is often the company that consistently underestimates costs, and the company that consistently underestimates costs eventually builds itself into bankruptcy. One job at a time, the cash flow nightmare. Here's the economic structure that kills more construction companies than any other single factor. And it is so deeply embedded in how the industry operates that most people outside the business never realize it exists. Construction companies pay their expenses immediately and collect their revenue slowly. Workers are paid every week. Material suppliers expect payment within 30 days. Equipment financing comes out every month, but clients typically pay their construction invoices 30 to 90 days after receiving them, which means a construction company doing $10 million in annual revenue might have between $2 and $3 million in cash tied up at any moment in work that has been completed but not yet paid for. A company that wins a $5 million contract in January starts spending immediately on workers and materials and might not receive its first payment until March or April. And if the client is slow to pay, or disputes an invoice, or enters financial difficulty of their own, the construction company is in genuine cash flow crisis, not because the job went wrong, but because the timing of cash in and cash out is structurally mismatched in a way that requires constant management and significant working capital reserves that most new construction companies do not have. The equipment cost that stops everyone. Here is the capital requirement that makes starting a construction company almost impossible for people who have not inherited one. Commercial construction requires commercial equipment. An excavator capable of handling commercial grade foundation work costs between $100,000 and $500,000. A mobile crane capable of lifting steel beams to the upper floors of a building costs between $500,000 and $3 million. A concrete pump truck costs between $200,000 and $400,000. A mid-sized construction company needs between $2 and $10 million in equipment just to be capable of bidding on jobs of meaningful size. And that equipment must be financed because almost no one has $10 million in cash to buy construction equipment, and the financing costs, monthly payments on $10 million in equipment, running between $100,000 and $200,000 per month, must be covered by revenue, whether the company has jobs or not. The bonding requirement that blocks new entrants. Here is the barrier to entry that most people starting construction companies discover after they have already committed to starting one. Large construction projects require performance bonds, legally binding insurance policies that guarantee the construction company will complete the project or pay the cost of finding a replacement contractor. A performance bond typically costs between 1% and 3% of the total project value. On a $50 million project, the bond costs between $500,000 and $1.5 million. And here's the problem for new or small construction companies. Bonding companies require extensive financial history to issue bonds. They want to see years of audited financial statements, a track record of completed projects, significant liquid assets, and an established credit history, which means that a construction company in its first 3 years cannot get bonded. And a company that cannot get bonded cannot bid on the majority of commercial construction projects that represent the highest margins and the most consistent revenue in the industry. The subcontractor dependency risk. Here's the third-party risk that general contractors carry on every project, and that can destroy a profitable job almost overnight. General contractors on large commercial projects do not typically do all the work themselves. They hire subcontractors for specialized trades, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, concrete, steel erection, fire suppression, and dozens of other specialized components, and the performance of those subcontractors is the general contractor's legal responsibility to the client. When a subcontractor fails, when they go bankrupt mid-project, when they deliver poor quality work that must be redone, when they fall behind schedule, triggering the daily delay penalties written into most commercial construction contracts, the general contractor absorbs the cost. A delay clause in a commercial construction contract might specify penalties of $5,000 to $25,000 per day for late completion, which means that a subcontractor failure that delays a project by 60 days costs the general contractor between $300,000 and $1.5 million in penalties. That can eliminate the entire profit on the job. And then some. The weather and permit reality. Here is the economic variable that no construction company can control, and every construction company must financially plan for: weather. A concrete pour cannot happen in freezing temperatures. Foundation work cannot proceed in saturated soil. Exterior work stops in high winds. And every weather delay pushes back completion dates, triggers contract penalty clauses, extends the period during which equipment financing must be paid without corresponding revenue, and strains the working capital that is already stretched by the cash flow mismatch of construction payments. Construction companies build weather contingency into their bids, but weather rarely behaves according to contingency estimates and permit delays. Waiting for city or county approval to proceed to the next construction phase can add weeks or months to project timelines with the same financial consequence as weather, without any weather to blame. The complete economics. Here is what the full picture looks like for a construction company generating $10 million in annual revenue. Gross revenue, $10 million. Direct costs of materials, labor, and subcontractors at approximately 85%, $8.5 million. Gross profit, $1.5 million, 15%. Equipment costs and financing at $300,000. Bonding costs at $150,000. Insurance at $250,000. Administrative staff at $300,000. Working capital interest costs at $100,000. Total overhead costs approximately $1,100,000. Net profit approximately $400,000. A 4% net margin on $10 million in annual revenue. $400,000. After managing workers and subcontractors and equipment and bonds and cash flow and weather and client disputes for an entire year. Here is the truth about the economics of owning a construction company. The buildings that Jake drives past every day cost more to build than the profit margin suggests is rational. And the companies that build them survive not because the margins are generous, but because the volume is enormous. The best construction companies in America do not succeed because they make a lot of money per dollar of revenue. They succeed because they manage the cash flow, the bonding, the subcontractor risk, and the bid pricing more precisely than their competitors, and because they build the financial resilience to survive the job that goes wrong, which in construction is not a possibility, it is a certainty. You have been decoded. If this video made you look at every building you pass differently, or made you think differently about whether construction is the business you imagined it was, subscribe to Money Decoder 3004. Every single week, we decode the economics of the industries and businesses that build and move everything in American life. Simply, honestly, and clearly. Drop a comment below. Would you start a construction company knowing these economics? Tell me below. I read every single comment, and I will see you in the next decode.